Salt Papi was once considered the best influencer boxer, and the moment when Salt Papi versus Anthony Taylor was announced, people thought Salt Papi would wipe the floor with Anthony Taylor. Even when the fight was revealed to be only 3 rounds because Papi's team asked for it, people said that Anthony Taylor will be knocked out in no less than 1 round. And whenever I scroll through YouTube or Twitter before the fight actually happened, there'd be some polls that ask you who would win, Anthony Taylor or Salt Papi. There would never be a percent more than 15% for Anthony Taylor in favor of Anthony Taylor. People were 100% sure, not 100, but they were 100% sure that Salt Papi was going to win. But on fight night, we saw something very different. Anthony Taylor dominated Salt Papi for every single one of the 3 rounds. He's the game plan that turned out to be the kryptonite for Salt Papi. Before this fight, I had a video that was planned to basically say that Anthony Taylor was going to win and Salt Papi was going to lose because Anthony Taylor actually fought real challenging guys, when Salt Papi fought all bums and he was basically untested. And I regret not making that video so much. If I had posted it, I would have been so right. But let's get back to Anthony Taylor versus Salt Papi. This fight is an example of a game plan executed perfectly. Anthony Taylor won because he landed more effective punches and he did a lot of work in the clinch. And that was one of the biggest reasons. He was clinching. Anytime Salt Papi was actually getting into his game, Anthony Taylor would just clinch him and basically stop Salt Papi in his tracks. So how did Salt Papi react to this in the fight? He didn't. He did not change his game plan. He did not adjust. He just stood there walking in a straight line and becoming a punching bag. And again, if Salt Papi tried to cut the distance, Anthony Taylor would simply clinch and do a lot of work to the body, which gave him more and more points, which made him look a lot better in front of the judges. That was the basic summary of the fight, but let's go through each round and show why Anthony Taylor won every single one of them. In the first round, we can see here that Anthony Taylor starts off with a really good right hand. And in the first round, Salt Papi had a few good counters here and there, but Anthony Taylor would immediately stop him in his tracks by simply clinching and doing a lot of work to the body. The majority of the first round was basically Anthony Taylor throwing that right hand. If he lands it, he'll clinch. If he does not land it, he'll clinch. And even when Salt Papi tried to press forward, he clinched. The first 2 minutes of the first round, Anthony Taylor dominated, with Salt Papi only landing a 3-piece. In the last minute, Anthony Taylor and Salt Papi traded some punches, but when Salt Papi was looking good and landing more punches, Anthony Taylor simply clinched and stopped him in his tracks. And don't forget, he did a lot of work to the body. I think Anthony Taylor definitely won this round because he was more consistent, and he landed more of the effective punches. And when Salt Papi started getting with his flow, he shut that down real quick by clinching and doing a lot of work to the body. Now let's take a look at the second round. In the second round, Salt Papi starts off strong by landing a lot of punches on Anthony Taylor. But again, Anthony Taylor did the same thing he always does, clinch and work the body. Even though it may seem insignificant, he's tiring out Salt Papi while scoring points. A little bit after the first minute, Anthony Taylor lands huge consecutive shots, and Salt Papi simply walks in a straight line chasing Anthony Taylor and basically does nothing even though he's getting pummeled in the face. Even if they didn't hurt him, it's still not a good look because the judges are seeing that and they're probably going to give the round to Anthony Taylor because he's landing so many good shots. And after those punches land, Anthony Taylor simply clinches and works the body. And this clearly got to Salt Papi, who was very frustrated. Every time Anthony Taylor would clinch, he would just push him down and drop him to the floor. I'm very surprised that the ref did not take away any points because he did it so often. Round number 2 is clearly Anthony Taylor's round. He landed more power punches, and he did a lot of work to the body. And even when Salt Papi landed, Anthony Taylor did the same thing he always does. Punch, clinch, and do the work to the body. The working of the body and the shape of Salt Papi was in during this fight made him very tired. And we could see effects of that tiredness because his hands were always low. That's why he was getting caught. His hands were just low. He was getting tired and it's so obvious. To think people compared Salt Papi to an actual pro, but he got tired in the second round. But what I think solidified round number 2 for Anthony Taylor is the fact that when he landed so many of those punches right on Salt Papi's head, Salt Papi did nothing but move forward and take more punches to the head. So quick recap, Anthony Taylor won the first round and dominated the second. Now let's look at the third. The third round was a total annihilation by Anthony Taylor. He was landing, he was feeling himself, and Salt Papi couldn't do anything to stop him. In this round, he fully combined his leaping right hand and clinching. Salt Papi couldn't even hit him. Anthony Taylor was so effective that Salt Papi basically could do nothing. He could do nothing but stand there. He'd throw his right, land, and immediately hug him and do this. work to the body. And he did that the entire round. This round is the easiest to score, and I don't even have to explain why. If I was a judge, my scorecard would be 30 to 27, which 2 of the 3 judges had. I could see 29-28 if you give the first round to Salt Papi because that was the closest round, but there's no way that Salt Papi won this fight. I think this fight truly stopped the hype train behind Salt Papi. It fully exposed him. Salt Papi, living up to his name, is being very salty. He actually thinks that he won this fight, saying, quote, "I won the first round and half of the second," because he was okay in the first round, but Anthony Taylor landed more of the effective punches, and he did more work. He clenched, did a lot of work to the body, and he landed more punches, so obviously the first round should go to Anthony Taylor. And as the fight went on, we clearly saw that Salt Papi was getting more and more tired. His cardio was absolute trash. Halfway throughout the second round, he was basically almost gassed, and he was taking huge punches to the head. How does a guy who's apparently a pro get gassed by the second round? And people are trying to paint the narrative that shorter rounds actually benefited Anthony Taylor. No, it didn't. If the rounds kept on going, Salt Papi would get more and more tired. He would have probably gotten embarrassed and he probably would have gotten knocked out. There is absolutely no way that Salt Papi won this fight. And I think this actually shows you what the problem with hype is. We saw 2 guys who are very hyped up in the influencer boxing space get destroyed this year. First, it started with Jake Paul in February, now with Salt Papi in May. If you fight guys who are not on your level, you will look a lot better than you actually are. And I actually heard that Salt Papi went to the Philippines and basically got off camp and he ate whatever he wanted before this fight. Why would he do that before his hardest fight? The problem is that people hyped up Salt Papi so much his ego was all over the place. And he did not train as hard as he actually could have, because he could easily be Anthony Taylor. Salt Papi is a longer guy and Anthony Taylor was basically running away the entire fight and moving a lot. Instead of Salt Papi actually closing the distance properly, he would chase Anthony Taylor. How is a guy who's apparently supposed to be a pro and should fight pros instead of influencers doesn't know how to cut off a ring properly? And Idris Virgo versus Anthony Taylor should have given everything that Salt Papi needs to win this fight. It was uppercut, uppercut, uppercut. Because Anthony Taylor leans down a lot when he throws his punches. And Salt Papi never threw any uppercut. Anthony Taylor's kryptonite is uppercuts. So why would you not throw uppercut? It made no sense. I think this is a good lesson for Salt Papi because he's still very talented. I don't think this takes away anything from his talent, but this takes away a lot of the hype. He could come back. There's a lot of comeback stories like Deji. We can see Deji got the win over Swarms, but he needs to come back, get in better shape, and actually train. You don't look over opponents, no matter how bad they are. You gotta train super duper hard. And even if a few weeks from now he still thinks he won this fight, it's basically over for his career, because everything depends on how the people view you. If you're a salty loser, then no one will like you. But I'm hoping that Salt Papi comes back, shows his skills against an influencer, and regains his position as the best influencer boxer, because he has the potential to do that. All he needs to do is work hard. Thank you for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this video.